it's me again. Sorry about having to do two parts for part 37 of Secret Lives of the First Ladies. It's just that when I was doing part one, my alarm went off to let me take my birth control, because I have to be on birth control right now because my boyfriend's not ready for kids. And so, hold on. Sorry about that. I just had to close my door so that my sister doesn't accidentally barge in or anything while I'm doing this. And so yeah, my alarm went off so I could take my birth control because my boyfriend doesn't want kids right now, but I do, so we compromised. More like he won. And so now I have to take birth control for now until until he's ready for kids. We just started dating by the 31st of next month will be our 3rd year anniversary of being together. So I don't know when, if ever, we're gonna be able to have kids. Cause I'm getting older and I have PCOS, which means that my eggs are getting way older. Which means that pretty soon, in like 7 years or so, it'll be basically impossible for me to have kids. At which point, I should just give up on having kids. I guess. I mean, I want at least 1 or 2 kids of my own someday, but I mean, like, how can I when my boyfriend isn't even ready? You know? I'm not even financially ready yet. I'm trying to find jobs so that I can be financially ready, but this day and age in this economy, finding a job is so fucking hard. So if I don't find a job by like March of next year, then I'm gonna ask Regional Center if they can just pay for my schooling so they can become a legal secretary. At this point, that's what it's looking like. Cause I can't even get paid for YouTube and or TikTok because I don't have a whole lot of followers right now. And I need the money, you know? I really do. I'm really struggling. So, anyways, let's continue. As it happened, her husband was fed up with the status quo she was left as she was, and left at the opportunity offered him by President Gerald Ford to become the United States envoy to China. He and Barr, as he called his wife, ended up spending to relocate. The dream came to an end in 1976 when George, after a great deal of deliberation, and his wife, his kids, and himself accepted the job of director of the CIA. For Barbara, the return to Washington was an utter drag. As the nation's chief spy, blah 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 blah. Okay, the children, of course, were limited to the children, of course, were all living lives of their own, and Barbara found herself alone and anxious. Jealous of all the professional women who surrounded her husband, she jealously questioned her decision to reject a college degree and become a full-time homemaker. The result was a long and very nasty bout of depression that often verged on the suicidal. Deeply troubled by his wife's grim demeanor and crying jags, Bush urged Barr to get professional help. She would later wonder why he didn't leave her. Instead, she resumed her volunteer project, threw her energies into tennis and political entertaining, and developed a project of all her own. Having once been utterly terrified of speaking before an audience, Barr developed a slideshow on China, toured the country with it, and sent the proceeds on to her favorite church in Houston. Fortunately, Barbara's self-engineered therapy began to work, for she soon found herself in a role that needed her to be at her best. After George became vice president under Ronald Reagan in 1980, Mrs. Bush took on a truly exhausting schedule. During her 8 years as second lady, she hosted well over 1,000 events, logged nearly 1.5 million miles of travel both here and abroad, and, most importantly, allowed herself to be hoisted by a cherry picker every December to place a star on top of the national Christmas tree. It's safe to say that she more than made up for calling Geraldine Ferrell a snitch. You know, the B word that ends with the word that starts with a letter B and ends with itch. I'm not gonna say because I don't want to get like what you would call it on YouTube. I forgot what it's called. Not dramatized, but something else. I know I'll think of it sooner or later. During Bush's presidential campaign in 1988, Barr toured the country with a slideshow of her beloved family, a presentation meant to visualize the Republican Party's emphasis on family values. It also served to galvanize Mrs. Bush's image as a kind-hearted grandmotherly figure. She even looked the part with her pearl necklaces and mane of gray hair. But if Barr seemed naturally to put people at ease, she also had the capacity to stir controversy. She had always been forthright. But after public remarks that indicated she differed with her more conservative husband over such issues as abortion and gun control, she quickly learned to curb her candor, at least before the media. Of course, the new First Lady's straightforward style could also be an asset. Incapable of putting on airs, Barbara Bush never took herself seriously, and virtually every one of the innumerable guests at the White House over her 4-year tenure found her impossible not to get along with. Something she did take seriously, however, was her opportunity to make a difference. Literacy was a project of choice, a campaign she embraced in her second lady days, and that she now pursued even more vigorously. She supported reading programs around the country by creating the Barbara Bush Foundation for Family Literacy. They have radio programs to encourage adults to read aloud to the children and push the president to sign the National Literacy Act in 1991. She wrote a couple of books about her dogs. See Fred's story written during her years as second lady in Millie's book, whose royalties went toward funding literacy projects. Though many Americans considered her a sort of throwback to the days before feminism, as exhibited by protesters at Wellesley College who thought Mrs. Bush, whose fame rested solely on the work of her husband, was a bad choice for commencement speaker. Barr got high marks for the majority of the country, and not just for her sense of humor. When she famously embraced and kissed AIDS victims, she went a long way toward dispelling the myth that casual contact could spread the virus, and her impassioned public statements against racism helped advance the national dialogue on the challenges facing people of color. Unfortunately for the president, his popularity wasn't quite as high as his wife's. Indeed, it would keep falling, particularly during the Gulf War. Though Barber campaigned right along with him in 1992 for his re-election and gave a stirring speech at the Republican convention, she was getting weary of the withering criticism being heaped upon him by his opponent. His loss to Bill Clinton stung but also came as something of a relief for Barbara. By devoting herself after the defeat to refurbishing the family homes in Maine and Texas, by writing her memoirs, and by continuing to work on behalf of literacy, Barbara fell into a routine typical of a former First Lady, but she eventually took on a task shared by only one other predecessor. In 2000, she enthusiastically campaigned her son's race for the White House, and when he won, she became the first woman since Abigail Adams to be both a wife and mother to an American president. Looks like leaving college to raise a family wasn't such a bad idea after all, right? And I'm gonna tell my kids, go to college, because you don't want to become like me, where you can only get part-time jobs. Part-time menial jobs. Not that they're bad or anything. No. But I mean, like, to live life nowadays, you gotta have some sort of degree, you know? Or be a social media influencer, you know? Because I mean, like, that's all you can be nowadays for right now. Until Trump is out of office, which is God knows when. Who knows when that will be? Oh wait, it's gonna be in like 2028 or something. Something like that, I don't know. 2028, 2029. I just can't wait that long for him to not be president, for the economy to go back to normal. I need jobs like now. So that's why if by March 17th of next year, if I don't get a job by that point, the next day, I'm going to call my regional center coordinator and ask her if she can help me go to school to become a legal secretary. And hopefully that'll get me a job, you know? We'll see. Okay, well, please comment, rate, and subscribe down below. And if you're on YouTube, please ring that bell notification so that you can know when I upload. And if you're on TikTok, please like and follow my videos. And on YouTube, let's get to 50 subscribers. And on TikTok, let's get to 50 followers. And once we do that, then I'm going to show you guys something special. I'm not going to tell you because I want to see if we can all get to 50 subscribers on YouTube and 50 followers on TikTok, okay? And also, please pay for something on either my eBay and or Mercari, okay? Bye!